All right, this is Cognition Intelligence, Section A lecture. Our prioritized standard is going to be 8A. Objectively, we're going to analyze the various aspects of cognitive function. Now, cognition is the process of thinking, and it encompasses the processes associated with perception, knowledge, problem solving, judgment, language, and memory. Cognition involves mental activities that go on in the brain when a person is processing information. This processing includes organizing, understanding, and communicating information to others. Cognition is an essential feature of human consciousness, yet not all aspects of cognition are consciously experienced. Sometimes you're doing things and you're not even really thinking about what you've done, but potentially you've made several decisions. So, this could be an example of that. The field of cognitive psychology seeks to understand how and why people think the way they do. This is accomplished through studying the interactions among human thinking, emotion, creativity, language, problem solving, and other cognitive processes. While the brain is exposed to staggering amounts of information to make this information more easily accessed, the mind actually organizes this information into what are called concepts. So concepts are categories or groupings of linguistic information, images, ideas, or memories, such as life experiences. Concepts are going to be the big ideas that are generated by observing details and categorizing and combining these details into cognitive structures. Concepts are used to make relationships among information in your mind both organized and accessible. Now, there are two categories of concepts. You can have natural concepts and artificial concepts. With natural concepts, these are concepts that people form as a result of their experiences in the real world. So this can be developed through either direct or indirect experiences. For instance, your personal experiences with snow have shaped what you understand about snow. As you've probably seen it fall from the sky, you've seen it fall lightly or possibly heavily. You've likely played in the snow, you've sledded, you built a snowman, you've had a snowball fight. Yet, those living in possibly the Caribbean might only have an indirect understanding of what snow might be like they might have experienced through films or television. Now, artificial concepts are concepts that are defined by a specific set of characteristics. So, like artificial concepts define an idea that is crucial to communicating with others and engaging in complex thought. The subject of mathematics is an example of artificial concepts, like geometric shapes that have certain specifications, like triangles always are going to have 3 angles and 3 sides. Squares are going to have 4 equal sides, and also mathematical formulas just in general. Sometimes these are referred to as formal concepts. Now, concept formation is the process by which a person learns to sort specific experiences into general rules or classes, sometimes called classifications. Now, there are 4 main steps involved in the formation of concepts. You can have observation, followed by generalization, then discrimination or differentiation, and abstraction. Through the observation of an event, object, or an experience, a person becomes aware of it. So this can be direct, or it can possibly be indirect. So, oh, look, it's a dog. After repeated experiences or observations with something, one will make a generalization about it, which is when one makes a general idea about something, determining what it is and potentially what it is not. So, dogs, they're furry, they have 4 legs, they have a tail, they bark. Now, discrimination or differentiation, this occurs when one becomes aware of differences between similar things and are able to discriminate between them. So potentially, after a while, you might determine that, hey, dogs can be all kinds of different sizes, different looks, and they can all still be dogs. And then we have abstraction. So this occurs when one can inwardly analyze the similarities and differences between things in the absence of the actual object. So abstraction is going to be the step that transforms comparable and contrasting experiences into concepts. So potentially, I can objectively think about what dogs are and what they are not, even when there's not actually a dog around for me to think about that. Though, or rather through concept formation, there can be the creation of several different types of concepts, like relational concepts, conjunctive concepts, and disconjunctive concepts. With relational concept, this is a concept defined by the relationship between features of an object or between an object and its surroundings. So, for instance, things like something that's greater than, bigger or smaller than, uh, something that's above, something that's below, something to the right, something to the left, something that's upside down, something that's right side up. Those types of things are considered relational concepts. Now, conjunctive concept, this is a concept defined by a set of attributes that must be present for the concept to apply. So, for instance, if the concept we were talking about was a brother, well, this is going to require a couple things. You have to have someone that's a male, which means, sorry, ladies, you can't be a brother. And it also involves you have to be a sibling. So, since these are all men and siblings, that means they can all be brothers. Potentially something like the concept of a motorcycle. This is going to require things like two wheels, handlebars, and an engine. If you don't have all three of those things, it's not a motorcycle. It would mean if you just had two wheels and a handlebar, it could be a bike. So, I mean, those things are necessary. You can't omit certain parts with something that's a conjunctive concept. Disjunctive concept. This is a concept defined based on the possession of any one of a set of attributes. So, for instance, if the question is, hey, what is a strike? Well, a strike in baseball can occur when a batter swings and misses. It can also be when hitting the ball into foul territory. So they didn't miss it, they hit it, but they didn't go in the right area. Or it can also be when the batter does not swing, but the umpire calls the pitch a strike. Now, any three of those could possibly be a strike, but all three of those can't actually take place at the same time. So, again, that's going to be an example of a disjunctive concept. Another example, concept of people with dark hair. So, this can include people that have black hair and also brown hair. So, you can have different shades and still be considered dark hair, like as a for instance. An important aspect of concept formation is the creation of schemas, which are mental structures consisting of a cluster or collection of related concepts. Schemas can be useful because they allow people to take mental shortcuts in interpreting the vast amount of information that's available in our environment, thus allowing the brain to work more efficiently. When a schema is activated, the brain makes immediate assumptions about the person or the object that's being observed. Schemas can contribute to stereotypes, which we'll talk about in a moment, and make it difficult to retain new information that does not conform to our established ideas about the world. Now, there are many different types of schemas. There's kind of two categories of them, though. One would be a role schema, which makes assumptions about how individuals in certain roles will actually behave. So this includes assumptions about how you should act in certain social settings, like, hey, how should you act when you're on a date? How should you act at a job interview? How do people of certain professions, how should they be treated? You can also have event schemas, which is a set of behaviors that can feel like a routine. So an event schema for using like an elevator, for instance. So you go to the elevator, you wait for the doors to open. Then you wait for the passengers that are already in the elevator to get out. Then you get in the elevator. Then you turn around so you can face the doors. Then you push the correct button that corresponds to the floor you want to go to. So there are certain events or behaviors that have to take place in certain circumstances. A lot of these event schemas often are going to be very automatic for people. So schemas can result in prototypes or stereotypes. Prototypes are concepts that closely match the defining characteristics of that concept. So prototypes develop according to the exposure a person has to objects that are in that category. For instance, what comes to mind when you think of a dog? oftentimes that's going to be shaped by what your early experiences with dogs might have been. So, like a first dog might be what you generally think of when you think dog. As where stereotypes are concepts that are overly generalized to the point of not being accurate representations of that concept. So stereotypes are often associated with forms of prejudice or discrimination on groups of people based on characterizations that are not true for all people that are in that group. So the use of stereotypes can lead to erroneous conclusions. So like some people might see someone with a lot of tattoos, and that might lead them to believe something with very little evidence. So schemas become virtually automatic reactions in the mind, so they can actually be very difficult to change once they are established. So if you try to convince certain groups of people that, hey, just because you have tattoos doesn't mean you've done anything wrong, that can be a tough one to shake for some people. All right, that concludes Cognition and Intelligence Section A lecture. Our prioritized standard again was 8A, and objectively now you can analyze the various aspects of cognitive function.